This is 3 tips for faculty to stay copyright compliant in online courses. These are the 3 topics we will be focusing on in this video. You can see the timestamps in the YouTube description box to get to the specific topic you're most interested in. My name is Amanda Ross, and I work in the Access Services Office that handles interlibrary loan and copyright clearance. Our Chief Copyright Officer for the college is the Dean of Libraries, Paula Satoon. I maintain the library's copyright guide. I am not a lawyer, and this is not legal advice, but many librarians do have a good working knowledge of how copyright can affect our work in an academic setting. I may not give out legal advice, but I can point you in the right direction for good resources on learning more about copyright issues to help you make your fair use assessments and copyright decisions. Many librarians can, so feel free to ask any of us, and depending on how wide our eyes may get, we will filter to the correct person to help handle your question. For example, many of our librarians have certifications in Creative Commons licensing, so those kinds of questions will be filtered to them, and so on. We'll view this guide, as you can see in the screenshots here, more in a moment. The first tip I'd like to address is linking versus file uploads and the considerations around these two content types. So I'm going to go to my browser for this portion to demo what I'm talking about. So I've gotten a lot of questions from faculty that involve file versions of material that they want their students to read. And after asking them about where the file came from, how it was made, it becomes clear that they either copied and pasted from a web page, such as just going down and copying and pasting into a Word doc, or they saved the page as a PDF, such as using Control-P and then choosing the PDF, Save as PDF option to create a PDF file out of that web page. Sometimes they believe that doing those two things could either help solve accessibility issues or access issues. It is the case that some articles online offer only a limited number of views before a student would hit a paywall and so on. But this action of either copying and pasting or saving as a PDF could present problems because it is making a copy. It weighs less in favor of fair use if you were to instead just use the URL in the address bar here and link to that in your Blackboard course. After all, copyright protects copies. If no copy is being made in the form of a file, this is less of an issue. However, as acknowledged, there may be issues with linking that you need to work around, and you need to make sure that what you're linking to is posted legally. But how do you know if something is posted legally? That can sometimes be complicated to tell, and it ties into everyday credibility assessments that we have to make. Something that we are still battling today is seen as in how we talk about misinformation and fake news. But an article like this one from the New York Times, for example, we can verify that the copyright holder posted it, and it is exactly a good candidate for what can be linked in our course for student reading. But let's say that students do run into a paywall for this article, and maybe they've forgotten, and you keep having to explain how to get their New York Times login through the library, which we do offer. Let me show you where to go. So from our library website, tulsacc.edu/library will get you there. If you go to Articles and Databases under Find, and you select In, to get to the New York Times, it tells you how to create an account for a pass, and our FAQ on our library homepage here will explain that as well. But let's say that they're having trouble with their account and you just can't seem to get students all on the same page to get to this article, even though the library does grant them access that way. What can we do? I have 2 suggestions for articles like this. And the first one is seeing if we have it in our library databases by title. So I'm going to search the Discovery Catalog. I'm going to just search the title, and it comes up as held by our library. And once it loads here, it says there's 6 links available. So we have 6 databases that offer this specific article. But I'm going to go with the default one here at this blue button. And it's going to take me to a Gale database. I've tested this ahead of time. And so this is the same author, correct? It looks a little different. It may not have the image, but, oh, sorry. I'm going to actually close that. It may not have the image here in this Gale result, but it's still constant access, or more reliable access at times than some free online articles might be. And you can get the permalink from the database and link to this in your course, or you can link directly to the catalog result and copy that to give your students all of the options of accessing it via one of these other database links. But these all look to be like Gale databases, but sometimes one's EBSCO. Like if they prefer EBSCO, that would give them an option of choosing that instead. Especially, it may be especially helpful if one database is experiencing an outage too, showing all of the other options. And excuse me, with this result in the database, I sometimes get questions from faculty if they can just download the PDF, which is an option, to just upload instead and see it downloaded here in the corner. While that presents less of a copyright issue because we're already paying for access for our library users through our subscription, I do still recommend linking instead. A lot of times faculty want to upload the PDF in case the database ever does experience an outage. And while if you happen to have a backup copy, if that scenario does happen, that's one thing. But I do recommend linking because it will help the library record usage, which shows what content is needed most in our databases and can be a deciding factor in what we continue to subscribe to. So, a note on that, how the library works. The second suggestion I have for maintaining links and access to online content is if we do not have the material in our library and students or you keep running into like paywalls or limited views, I recommend the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine. And I'm just going to Google that and bring it up here. The Internet Archive is a library that uses the Wayback Machine to archive pages of the internet. So let's say that I wanted to archive this. I would hit Save Page Now because maybe I'm afraid that this link is going to disappear in the future, or I want to just make sure I have a constant link to it in case a paywall is ever added to this page. While that's saving, I'm also going to open up a new Wayback Machine page, but once that saves, I will have a link to it, and you can also search for past saved versions of that link via the main bar. You can see every time in history this page has been crawled, I think is the term. But let's say June 2nd, 2021, last year, this page was saved, and this is how it looked. So if you ever find a defunct URL or maybe a a URL that you've used in the past is suddenly gone, it no longer works. Using the Wayback Machine to get back to the past versions of that content may be helpful. So I could just use this archived page URL to link in my class. I'll do an incognito window for you here to show you that it brings it back. It's loading here. But that is a way to get a constant permalink to online articles that the library may not have to offer. The second tip I have is for films in the online environment and the considerations involved with that. So showing a film in a face-to-face class has a lot fewer things to consider when showing a film. But what makes things complicated for both in-person and online viewing of certain content are the licenses involved. So showing content from a streaming platform from your personal account, such as Netflix, might be in violation of your user agreement with Netflix. Also, if a film you want to show is streaming on a platform and it was only ever produced in a streaming, what's the word, format, so it's not coming out on DVD, you cannot buy the DVD, and it's not being licensed to multiple platforms, so like a Hulu original film or a Netflix original film. So those kinds of films, the platform that it is on might not allow the library to even purchase or subscribe to the content for your class. This is an issue libraries have been battling for a long time, as it is also a cultural preservation issue. So no library is easily backing up that content, easily or legally backing up that content, because we can't, as a library, get a license to Netflix as an institution. Also, because of the DMCA, which is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, and you can learn more about that on the copyright guide, which is linked in the YouTube description box. But under copyright topic / glossary, you can go to the D in the alphabet and learn all about the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. But because of the DMCA, we cannot circumvent the DRM, or digital rights management, on DVDs and streaming platforms. So this is another thing that may complicate giving students access to a required film for your class. Also, for potential options on brainstorming how to show a film over Zoom and other considerations, please see our FAQ. And we have a widget of those FAQ here, such as, can I show a film over Zoom for my class? So clicking that will get you some considerations to think about. Or please reach out. If you can't find your answer in our FAQ, please feel free to contact me and we'll start brainstorming there. But please also know about the library's many streaming video databases. So from the library homepage, I'm going to videos, and we have all of these video subscriptions. Sometimes you can find them in the Discovery catalog, which is also this bar or this bar from the homepage. But searching through here, through these specific databases, we may already have a streaming version of the film you want to show on your online class, or a good alternative. If we don't have it, we have on the right side here a suggest a resource form that I hope you're aware of. We want to know what you need for your class, and filling out this form will prioritize our funds for you and cause the library to investigate if we can get the streaming version, and what streaming platform we will have to put that film on or add that film to. And if you need to get back to that this adjust a resource form, you can search for it in the FAQ here by clicking on that first FAQ that comes up. How do I suggest a book, video, or something else for the library to purchase? And that will direct you as well if that link ever moves. Okay, the third tip that I would like to address is the difference between OER and E-Reserves. Sometimes it can get complicated. So another copyright area I've gotten a few questions about is the difference between OER, or Open Educational Resources, and E-Reserves, electronic reserves. Just like in our number 1 tip, which covered the linking versus file use, what we call specific files and links even can be complicated. Just because something is posted freely online does not make it OER material, but that does mean it could be open access. OER content can come in the form of links for students or files, just like E-Reserve content can. If you are creating OER content, it might be up to you which you prefer, linking or files, as long as you are respecting the licenses put on any OER material you might be incorporating into your new content. It really depends. So to learn more about the differences, again, I recommend the topics glossary on the OER, or not the OER guide, the copyright guide. Going to the O's, you'll get a box about open access and a box about open educational resources, which talks about Creative Commons licenses and has a link to the OER guide, also linked in the description box here. So please look over this if you're interested in learning more about OER and using OER in your courses, or even creating some. That'll be a good place to start. But, oh, actually I can just close those. But I want to circle back to the E-Reserves content. So if you keep scrolling down on that copyright guide, you will find a box for reserves and E-Reserves. If you are using copyrighted content that was not published expressly as an open educational resource, then it is most likely going to fall under the definition of E-Reserves for your course. Even the links we were previously talking about, such as this one and this one, that could fall under the E-Reserves definition, but what gets complicated is the file versions for E-Reserves. So, if you are requiring material that cannot be found online, so we can't like even use the Wayback Machine to create a saved link for that, and there's no library version that we can link to either, then creating a scan of or from that material, such as if it's from a book, that would make that file copy E-Reserve material. So in that case, a fair use assessment must be made, and if found in excess of fair use, copyright clearance would need to be sought before you actually upload that material. No one can tell you, though, what is or is not a fair use. Not even a lawyer, only a court can decide. So what it comes down to is wanting to avoid court by being risk averse. So you can see our FAQ on our library website for more about fair use and making fair use assessments. These top 3 that come up when searching fair use are really good, good starting points. And you can also learn about the 4 factors of fair use to help you make your assessment. You can find out more about how the library can be involved with helping create E-Reserves by reading this section of the guide, the Reserves and E-Reserves section. Librarians can provide assistance in finding and placing content links to articles, ebooks, or other online resources within Blackboard, though they do not automatically have access to your courses. You can contact your subject liaison for more information to start collaborating, and there's a link within that box. You can also search our FAQ for liaison librarian and get this link through an FAQ as well. But this is a great place to start if you're needing help with e-reserve content. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.